Party faithful are gathering in Doncaster for their autumn conference. Nigel Farage gives us his big speech tomorrow. It's been a topsy-turvy 12 months for the UKIP leader. By-election successes late last year, but they were followed by general election failure after even Mr Farage failed to win a seat in Kent. A very public falling out among some of UKIP's top brass then followed. And in the thick of it all, to coin a phrase, was this man here, Raheem Kassam. He was Nigel Farage's right-hand man. And I emphasise right. Adam Fleming reports.
Turns out last November I got nice Nigel.
If you sort of wave to them, they'll all go mad, won't they? So we just see what happens. Give them a wave. Yeah, hello.
Well, the good thing about this office is there is a back door I can escape through.
Right.
The morning after UKIP won the Rochester by-election and secured their second seat at Westminster. During the general election this year, we got Nasty Nigel, who employed a tactic known internally as shock and awful, which involved picking fights on all sorts, from lefty bias to immigrants with HIV.
There are 7,000 diagnoses in this country every year for people who are HIV positive, which is not a good place for any of them to be, I know. But 60% of them are not British nationals. You can come into Britain from anywhere in the world and get diagnosed with HIV and get the retroviral drugs that cost up to £25,000 per year per patient.
Nigel famously then resigned, then unresigned, after UKIP emerged from the campaign with 4 million votes, but just one MP. Then came the UKIP wars. Fight!
To be making complaints, and to be showing an aggressive demeanour to the public, I don't think it's Nigel's natural way. I much prefer him as an ebullient, cheerful, optimistic politician, and I think that's the way he reaches out best.
After saying that, Patrick O'Flynn resigned as the party's economic spokesman. He blamed Nigel's advisor, Raheem Kassam, who then quit too to return working on a right-wing blog.
Patrick O'Flynn has a very, very left-wing way of looking at the world. At the Doncaster conference, UKIP conference last year, he encouraged a rise in taxes on luxury goods. I will be leaving the UK Independence Party today and rejoining Breitbart London as its editor-in-chief. And if Patrick O'Flynn thinks he's seen American-style politics from me within UKIP, he ain't seen nothing yet.
Also departing, behind-the-scenes bigwig Matthew Richardson, seen here with a big circle round his head. The party's deputy leader, Suzanne Evans, got stuck in as well on this very programme.
I think Nigel is a very divisive character in terms of the way he is perceived. He's not divisive as a person, but the way he is perceived is as having strong views that divide people.
She appeared to be sacked as a party spokesman in an email leaked to the BBC. A few hours later, she was unsacked because apparently the email wasn't authorised. Suzanne's now trying to become the party's candidate for London Mayor. And Matthew Richardson, remember, the one with the circle round his head? Well, he's back too. And now UKIP's focus is on the campaign to get us to leave the EU. Even though we don't know when the referendum will be, Nigel's already hit the road. But which one? Nasty or nice?
Joining me now from Salford is the UKIP MEP, Stephen Woolfe. Mr Woolfe, welcome back. As you look back on the May election result, you got plenty of votes, but you only got one seat. What lessons have you taken away from that performance?
Well, the lessons, Andrew, are very clear, is that we did succeed by getting 4 million votes. We had an amazing manifesto that was well recognised, and it was also seen to be innovative. But the key point that we now need to learn is that if UKIP is to be the opposition to the Conservative Party in 2020, we need to put tittle-tattle like you've just seen behind us. And we must say to people that UKIP is a party that believes in a better Britain, that is fairer, freer, prouder, and one that can have a sensible economic policy led by the talented individuals that we have in this party.
But are you saying that you didn't do as well as you hoped because of tittle-tattle?
No, I'm just saying that we don't need to discuss that anymore.
But I'm still trying to find out why you didn't do as well as you thought you were going to or hoped you were going to.
Well, I think there was absolutely clear that the Conservative Party had a strategy of trying to show that the SNP in particular was a massive danger and they were going to join forces with the Labour Party. and become a disaster for Britain. I agree that they would become a disaster for Britain. I mean, if you look at what the Labour Party is today, they're infighting generally between their own cabinet members who are leaving, those within their own parliamentary Labour Party, and a leader that says one thing has already done several U-turns. So I think that was one of the major issues that scared people off, because they felt, although they liked our policies and our views, they were actually comforted by this particular issue of voting Conservative to keep the SNP out.
You also said, though, that the tone of the party's rhetoric during the campaign had gone far too negative. Were you talking about our guest here in the studio, Raheem?
No, I think if you look at the arguments that were put forward in certain instances, what the British people are looking for when they're talking about immigration is they recognise that some immigration creates benefits to this country, but they're also deeply concerned about its impact of mass immigration on schools and hospitals in terms of infrastructure and the way that they live their lives, and socially too. And I think what we're doing as UKIP is that sometimes the messages were taken by the other side. They were able to try and push us on a view that we weren't being fair. And I believe they were wrong. You only have to see by the number of candidates that were regarded as black, mixed and ethnic. We had 82.
Okay.
And so we had a very strong message out there. But sometimes we enable the other side to attack us unfairly.
All right. But of course, that never happens in an election campaign, does it, to anybody else?
Well, we've learned lessons from that, Andrew. Okay. Now we've learned very strong lessons.
Let me bring in Raheem here. Were you part of the shock and awful campaign? Was it far too negative?
So shock and awful was a phrase that was used by a journalist to me in the spin room after the debate, after those comments that Nigel made about the HIV migrants issue. I had no forewarning that he was going to make those comments. I didn't know about
on the HIV immigrant issue?
Yeah, correct.
You didn't know he was going to do that?
Not at all.
Hadn't been pre-planned?
No, not at all. I mean, I was sitting in a room when a couple of us were around a table and the issue was raised, but it was never a sort of, this is what we're going to say, we're definitely going to talk about this. It was just as part of the manifesto that it was being talked about in the room. There was never anyone who said, we absolutely must.
Would you have advised them to do that or not if you had known?
Do you know what? Nigel's his own man. And
no, I know that, but he can't take advice. He may not follow it. How would you have advised him?
I don't think I would have weighed in on that one, honestly, because I'm still not sure where I am on that. It is an incredibly emotive point, and you can see. Look, the polling was on UKIP's side afterwards, right? But you can see where other parties and a lot of the media, I have to say, seized on it to portray him as Nasty Nigel.
Okay, what did you think, Stephen Woolfe, when you heard these remarks?
Well, I think there was an opportunity there for the other side to attack us as going on today, and that's politics, as you said, Andrew. That's what happens in general elections. But what you're going to find from the UKIP faithful today in Doncaster is that we're all behind Nigel, because this is the man that has brought us a referendum that no other politician has done. He is the most influential politician of our time in this respect. And we're gearing up for something that's incredibly important, giving the opportunity for people to decide whether we can move forward in the world, whether we can start trading openly with people in the Commonwealth, in Asia, in Africa, without having the European Union control our issues. But I think we've got a very positive message out there, and Nigel's going to lead us through on that.
You may well indeed have that, but haven't you struggled a bit since the election to be heard? To make much of an impact? We haven't seen much of Mr Farage since May. We haven't heard much of UKIP since May, despite your favourite issue of the day, the migrant crisis. It's been kind of below the par, but we're told that you're having to issue cut-price tickets to get people to come to Doncaster for your conference.
Well, I've not heard the latter there, but what I can tell you, Andrew, is that as a party, we have been preparing for this referendum. Myself, I'm going to be speaking on at least 30 public events between now and January. All our MEPs and spokespeople have created a strategy of going out to the public to put our very positive message of how the economy will be so much better and business would grow if we left the European Union.
But if you concentrate on the referendum in itself, doesn't that create problems for the party? Because, Mr Farage is doing tours of the country, not so much as UKIP leader, but as a major voice in the Get Britain Out campaign. Doesn't that cause you party problems if you concentrate on that?
Well, not necessarily. This is the most important issue of our generation. But you also have to understand how strong our membership are. I mean, they're already planning for local by-elections every week. I think we won one only this week. I can't remember exactly where it was, but I read about the successes that we're having local elections. We're also having our councillors, who are now about 500, doing their job up and down the country. And in my region of the Northwest, I do discuss with our regional organisers how we're going to look at the mayoral campaigns that are going to occur in Manchester. So we're running side by side, Andrew. Let's not forget we are a political party without the same resources as the Labour Party, but we believe that in order to achieve being the party that challenges the Conservative Party in England and Wales, we have to do well in the referendum and do well in local elections, and that's what we're going to do.
Stephen Woolfe, thanks for joining us from Salford.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.